left and slide. Sometimes we slide to the right. And if you slide to the left when you should slide to the right, I don't care. Okay? So, because I forget sometimes, like I just did. So you got to figure out where your weight is so that you know if you're going to slide left or right. Okay? So again, you got that rope. So you're going to ride, right, slide, and left, right, ride, right, slide, and left, right, ride, right, slide, and left, right, slide. See how I did left, right, left? Okay. Yeah. Okay, we're good. So that's your tag. That's your tag. You do it 4 times. So we do the dance here, we do the dance here. When we get here, we do the tag 4 times, and then we start the dance again. We do the dance here, and then we get here. We do the tag 4 times, and then we do the dance start from the beginning. And then we do the dance here, we do the dance here, and then we get here. All we do is the tag. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So here's the dance. You're going to do right, left, slide, left, right, slide. Right, left, right, left. So right, left, slide, left, right, slide. Slide right and left and right and left. Yes? Okay. Roll right, roll left, roll right, roll left. Roll right, roll left, roll right, roll left. Okay? Then you're going to do kick. No, you're not. You're riding a horse. So then you're going to kick, 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 pause, paddle 2, 3, 4. End of dance. Then you start the dance again. Left slide, left, right slide, right,
All at Four Seasons. I'm glad as many of you came that are here tonight. I would have liked to see some more, but I understand there'll be many more watching it on YouTube. So hopefully we get a crowd there. Barry, would you lead us in the pledge, please? It doesn't show that on the agenda, but I'd like to start that way. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Barry. Again, welcome. I'd like to start off by saying, are there any committee members out here right now? Committee members. Well, why don't you stand up so we can see you anyhow? These are the people that help us operate and have done great work for us, not only these, but many other committee members. So thank you very much. Without the committee members, we would have a lot more expenses around here just trying to operate. Our finance group, we have some tremendous talent in there, operating, safety, landscape. You can go across. Our Breeze, the ones that publish the magazine, it's probably the best one that I've seen around, and I've been to other places here. And Courtney, who is our publisher, speaks very highly of it too. So Irene, that's you and your crew. Thank you for that. And I'm asked to mention that the CHP is going to be doing a traffic safety class, a driving class for seniors. Now, I know all of us obey the law. We don't have any problems with stop signs, right away, speed. So, but yeah, we haven't lost a poll in almost 2 weeks now. Keep it up. Good work. If this could last if I could last maybe another 3 or 4 days, I'd be happy. But anyway, we make mistakes. We're all getting older, but we drive too fast. I don't know where we're going. We don't have any place to get to in a hurry, so let's take our time. But anyway, the CHP, it's a 2-hour class, and it's on September 7th, and it runs from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I attended the last one, and I went through the class, and I contacted my insurance company to see if I could get a discount. Some say yes, some say no. Mine happened to say no at first, and then I whined and cried and sniveled, and then they come back and allowed me a couple percent. So if you have any time on September 7th, please take advantage of it. Now I'd like to have Barry come up. Barry's going to take us through the meeting tonight and all of the information that he has. He's developed a lot of it himself with finance, and we appreciate all the efforts that you put into this because it's a very important topic right now. So Barry, would you come up, please?
Can you hear me? I can hear myself. Well, I was really expecting a lot more people. When you talk money, you would think you would get people out, but this is about the size of our normal board meeting. Because I was going to see a full room here, and I probably would have had a coronary and would have asked Gracie, is this wine night and not a board meeting? But it is what it is, and I'm hoping there are people that are watching the stream or watch afterwards. Okay, so tonight's meeting, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to review the 2022 budget, January through June. Where are we? How do we stand? How do we look going through the rest of the year? And then we're going to discuss planning thoughts for 2023. And note my comment on the bottom. I don't want a question tonight about how much are the dues going to increase or are the dues going to increase? You can draw your own conclusion, but we've just started the process. The Finance Committee, the subcommittee that does budget, they're just starting to grind this out. But there are some considerations that we'll talk about that you can make an assumption there's likely going to be an increase based on the economic conditions. So, mid-year budget review. If you're just looking at the numbers in whole on our sheet, on our budget sheet, looks pretty good. Mid-year, we're plus 189,000. We're under budget, 189,000. Everybody's happy. We can all go home, right? You got to look a little closer. And here's the main categories on our budget. And you can see the variances by each of those. And I'd like to review each of those so you understand, oh, geez, we have 79,000 in utilities and 88,000 plus in landscape. Boy, we're going to be good. We ought to get a refund at the end of the year. But let's take a look. Utilities. Keep in mind that on utilities, we budget their utilities for electric, gas, and water. They're $644,000 is what that total thing is. We just take that and divide it by 12 for each of the three categories. We don't look at it seasonally. I think this year we have more information and we may be able to show it because we know we use less water in the wintertime. We use less electric. We don't have to have the air conditioning on like this. We do use a little more gas in the wintertime for heating the pool up there and things like that. So right now, utilities are based on that, and we only have billings through May. So it's really only a 5-month number, and that doesn't reflect the really hot months that we're going to have. So I really think that the utilities part of that equation should balance out by the end of the year. And the hotter months are coming. Now, go down to look at landscape, and my first thing is it's committed. Even though there's an $88,000, $89,000 variance there, it's committed. It's just that landscape, there are things they can do in the spring other than mowing and blowing, and then they don't do anything for the summer months. It's a little hot. And then they come back in the fall and do more plantings and tree trimming. We also have another thing that's going on phenomenon here because the builder overplanted trees and planted trees too close to walls and property lines and everything else. We're starting to see a root infestation towards houses or pavements. If you were around the boulevard today, you saw a few trees removed. We didn't want to remove those trees, but they were lifting up the sidewalk, making it a hazard, and just not right. So we have some of that happened. That wasn't budgeted. We didn't know that was going to occur. So overall, landscape is going to use that money. Now, swimming pool and spa is $8,900 in the hole at this part. So it's over budget. Now, why is it over budget? Some repairs. We had some repairs that are there. Otherwise, we're pretty good. There's a new contract. There was a small increase in there, so that's reflected in that. But again, by the end of the year, unless we have some kind of additional repairs, we should be okay. Common areas. Common areas is something we've been following over the last 5-6 years. We've noticed that our maintenance cost in common areas has increased. That's what Mike, our maintenance guy, spends a lot of time on. He's fixing this, he's fixing that. There's lots of things. And with a facility now, like the lodge that's 16 years old, there's things that break, wear out, need to be little replacements. Not like a wholesale redecoration, but just that kind of maintenance. That's one of the items. And again, we had a couple of contract renewals in there like pest control. Small increase, so that has eaten it up. But it's really not an appreciable amount. When you look at $8,900 over a $5 million budget, it's not much, and I do think that'll balance out. Admin is positive. It's positive for a reason that is the phenomenon that's going on with all businesses is trying to get employees. Everybody's short. Stacy in the bistro is short, but anywhere you go in town, businesses, they just don't have people. They're not open their full amount. And we had 2 vacancies for about 2 months, and that they've been filled. So we saved those salaries. But in addition, the board, based on a request from individuals, we opened the summit and the courts an additional 2 hours each day. So you add that up, and that will eat into some of that. I think the admin plus may provide us a little bit of cushion for some of those other areas that may get close or may go over budget. Front yard, all I have to say is front yard is similar. It's a landscape issue. So there'll be more work done in the fall of tree trimming and planting and everything else that goes in. So when you look at that budget variance, I mean, we can look at that number and say, wow, we feel good, but you need to dig down and understand it, because that's our first question. Do we have extra money in there that we can use somewhere else or that we're going to save? No, probably not. So my comments are utilities will be a big factor from here on out. If we only have the May bill, we have June through the end of the year, and that's a big number. Will utilities, depending on the heat that we're experiencing right now, and we are watering. I know there's the drought condition, but the board has worked with Cherry Valley and the city, and we are watering adequately for our property. We tried to cut our water back, and you saw what the lawns look like. And that's not our property. That's not Four Seasons. We're not going to, at Beaumont, we're not going to live like that. So the board went down there, and we have some extended sprinkling based on the kind of sprinklers we have, and we are watering 6 days a week. But it's a matter of how hot this weather stays and how much more electric we use. Reserve funding. Be honest, reserve funding is likely to fall for a number of reasons. One, in trying to manage the budget last year, the reserve funding was at about 102, 103% last year. So the board said, well, instead of raising the dues X amount, we took $1 when we split it. Your dues is split into two pots. One goes for the reserve and one goes for the operational. So we took $1 from there. So that's one of the reasons we're going to fall. The other is this inflation factor is affecting the materials that are in the reserve at a higher rate than is projected. Plus, the interest rate we're getting, if you look right now, we're getting closer to 2% in new investments. In fact, some of our newer investments are 2.5%, but that's way below the rate of inflation. We're losing money in reality because 2% doesn't cover an 8.5% inflation rate. So I think we will be looking this year at making sure our funding is solid at 100%. I'm a big believer in it. I've been in other HOAs, and we don't want to get in a position and be short in that area as things age out and we need more materials. Planning thoughts. Oh, anybody have any questions on the budget where we are right now? I went too fast. Yes. Insignificant. It's to me that's a break even. It's not. I round it down. It's even. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Planning thoughts, and I want everybody to be aware of this, and I want everybody to understand some of the thoughts that are going to go into this, and your experience can tell you some of the issues that we're going to deal with. Just your day in and day out experiences of shopping for necessities. Okay. Guiding principle that the board and finance will direct their efforts at. We're looking at Four Seasons as a premier resort retirement community. Why do I say that? That's why we bought here. You didn't buy here to have, and I'm not going to be disparaging, a Hemet kind of property. You bought it because of the beauty of here and the amenities. So that is one of our obligations as a board, is to adhere to that until we get a big moment saying, no, we just want to have, a little bit of grass and trees and no flowers. And close, or even worse is, if we want to save money, we could close facilities, and we don't want to do that. That's not what we're here for. That's not what we bought. And if you look right now, and I've just been looking at prices on houses going here, our values have increased because of this property. When you have a choice of a property like this versus many other I've done comparatives to, we're in great shape. So that's our motto right there that we go by. The first, and we're also interested in protecting that homeowner investment. We want to maintain the community amenities and grounds to your expectations. And I've heard that more than anything from people coming up. I mean, people get hurt. When you see the tree that got cut down on White Sands today, it bothers you to see that nice poplar get cut down. We had to. We don't want to do that kind of stuff. And we want to manage our costs. So it's one thing to develop a budget, but you can't be just willy-nilly and spend money. You got to manage it. You got to look at it closely and make sure that you're on target. And I want to say something about the board and the finance committee who's developed our budget. We started developing our own budget 4 years ago. Before that, it was a system that was involved. I forget the name of it, but anyway, they automatically plugged in all the numbers and we could make some recommendations. But we started taking the budget on knowing we were going to have it in 2018, 2019, and we wanted to have a hand at it. And all the budgets, and I'll take this one out, those 3 years, the budgets have come in less than 1% off. So I hand that to the finance committee who makes the initial proposal, and then the board for agreeing to those numbers. And that's a pretty big tribute. I was in business and anybody else's. If you could come in your budget and be less than 1% off, that's pretty darn good. Okay? Okay. Here's the budget process, just to show you we just don't have a dartboard in the conference room that we throw and say, this year, I don't like that number. Let me try again. You know, we have a process, and the process has started. Finance, Jolene and Boyd head up this subcommittee to do this. And the first thing we'll do is meet with the chairs, and he's put out information about that, and they're getting back with what they see as expenses over and above the normal things. We don't have to worry about the contracts. Over $3.5 million of the $5 million are contracts. It's those other items that we want to get our hands on. They then come in and prepare a draft of the budget. They review it with the full finance committee, and there are 3 board liaisons on there. So we look at that thing, and we're vetting it all the time and challenging the numbers. We then have a board workshop. So the draft budget is presented to the board in a workshop so that they can also understand all the numbers in it. So it just doesn't come at a November meeting and the board's sitting there looking at it for the first time. They've got their hands in it, they've got their comments and everything else. And then we do have it all prepared for approval at our November meeting. So that's our process. Very strict. It's as good a process as any of the companies I ever worked for. Major planning issue this year, and this is current, this is through July, is 8.5% inflation we're living with. That's a big number, but wait till you see this. I'm sorry, it says Southern Cal inflation on the rise. I copied this out of an online newspaper, and it was cut off in the newspaper. They didn't have it printed. But if you look over here, Inland Empire, this is through July also. Inland Empire is at 9.2%. We live in, and it's higher than Los Angeles County and higher than Orange County, our rate of inflation. So we're in the hot spot right now on inflation. So 8.5 is a national average. We're dealing with 9.2 here. So I have a couple of examples. They're not all pertaining to the board, but they pertain to you, but it gives you an idea of what's going on. So I'd like to say, anybody here want to guess building materials, what % of increase they've experienced? 25? 30? Well, last year they were 23% last year. 23 last year, and then on top of it, another 7.5%. That's an item that we have to worry about because we buy a lot of building supplies and our contractors use a lot of building and supplies. Gas, what do you think gas was up at? 48%. I mean, we don't use a lot of gas. We know Park West does. They use a lot with all their power tools and all that stuff. But this is hitting our pocketbooks. I understand. I want everybody to understand is we're not immune. You're not immune to it, and neither is the HOA immune to this inflation. Food and beverage. How much is food and beverage up? Shout it out. Yeah. Gasoline. Food and beverage is up 10%. Yeah, try and go out and get lunch at a restaurant in here and pay less than $20 for a sandwich. I mean, we got a good deal going over here. Go out anywhere I've been. You're $20 or more for just lunch. Transportation. 19.7% in transportation costs going up. And this is one because we all are retired and we all try to do some traveling. Airfare is 37.8%. My point here is inflation's all over. It's impacting us as individuals, and it's also going to impact us. So the primary concerns that Boyd has this year is our contracts. I said that, our contracts are over 60% of our business. The big thing in the contracts are salaries. Anybody want to guess what salaries are up? 5.4%. And that's below inflation. So people are losing money with a 5% pay raise. We have to face that. That's the biggest thing. All our vendor contracts have a salary component. To keep people on the job, they've had to raise prices. I play golf at Tuckwood. They can't hire people up there for under 20. Like they used to like to pay 18. They can't 19. It's 20 bucks an hour. So everything goes up. And materials, we just saw what the price of materials went up over the last 2 years. So contracts will be interesting to see what we have. And we are looking now at a couple of our major contracts, and I expect them to go up. In fact, two of the ones hadn't had an increase last year, so they really took it on the nose with the inflation last year. I don't think when they anticipated in the November, December time of a year plus ago that the inflation was going to hit them like this and everything else, and it has. Landscape. We have some issues with landscape. I mean, how are we going to keep the landscape we have here? So, number one, there's going to be plans to how can we eliminate some of the green space we have and not make it desertscape. We didn't buy desertscape. You can go down to Palm Springs and buy desertscape. How do we keep it and make it look lush and all that? And there's lots of ways with native plants and such, and we can remove not all the grass, but some, because the drought is not going away. We're stuck with it. It's here. I mean, it would have to rain for 40 days and 40 nights, and I don't know if it would help. So landscape. The other thing is, I mentioned it earlier, we do have a problem with trees growing where they're not supposed to grow. And we've mapped that out. The landscape committee, the board has been on top of it, and we know we have some trees that we have to remove. And it's not only removing, if we let the trees go and they do damage, we have to replace maybe a wall, a sidewalk, or maybe somebody's patio because the roots went in addition to removing the tree. So that's something that will have to be in the budget this year because we're going to have to remove some of these trees that the arborist has identified saying, yep, they're right on the property line and they're heading in there. So landscape is going to be an issue that we have to consider. How much do we budget for that? And when I said earlier about the green space, taking some of that away, we're not going to do the whole thing at one time. We're going to try and maintain what we can and just slowly start to adjust some of those green areas. And reserves. This is one of my babies all along, and I'm very concerned with the last 2 years with the rate of inflation that's happened, with us not, we're probably going to come in this year when we look at it under 100%. Howard did a little bit of an estimate, and he thinks we're probably, 94? He thinks we're at about 94%. That's how fast it can drop. So we're going to need to bolster that up a little bit to bring it up to the 100%, because I look at it as an insurance policy. Out of our HOA fee, only $36 of the $242 goes to the reserve. But it may need a couple more dollars in there to get ourselves up. We don't want to fall below that. So I'm open for questions. I got a question. How many people think there might be an increase in dues this year? Okay, no surprise. I have no idea. Boyd's back there sitting, he hasn't put a pencil to the paper, but there's going to be something. There has to be. What I just showed you indicates there's got to be something that's going to affect us. Yeah, really. We're just going to have to let the wine club raise more money and put it in. Okay, so does anybody have any questions on any of the presentation at this point? Yes, Lynn. Oh.
Got it, Jerry.
Vanna White will be over with the mic.
Hardly.
You showed that the cost of everything is going up. We have to assume also that the reserve account has gone up, 8, 9%? Because it's based on replacing.
Yeah.
So the replacement cost has gone up.
Yeah.
So in addition, if you did nothing, the reserve account would drop down.
Yeah. The way you're absolutely right. They have a factor of a 3% inflation a year. The reserve is a 30-year plan. Yeah. And they look at it, they put all the products in there and their life expectancy. So where they start, there's a 30-year figure. And they use a 3% inflation. They also use the high rate of interest on your reserve amount of money. Well, fine, but we're in an unstable thing right now. I mean, this is the last 2 years, replacement items have gone up 25, 30%. So I think there's going to be a rebalancing. Len, you're right. Normally, if you were just going along at a pretty even keel and flat, 3% a year inflation would probably be good. It was for a long time. The interest rates are something that are another thing, and we're hoping to get them back. But again, they're still below the inflation factor. And we have $8 million in our reserve, a little over $8 million. But if we needed to replace everything at one time here, $44 million is what the estimate is. That was before any inflation factors. It's probably higher now. But all of our inventory of goods that are in the reserve is a $44 million. And we have $8 million, but you say you only got $8 million and you're saying you're close to 100% funded. We are. Remember, it's year to year. We'll use some of it, and we're putting more in. We don't use some this year, and the fund balances its way through. But I think we need an adjustment there. Yes.
You go anywhere in LA, Orange County, we were just up north. They average between $500 and $850 a month in dues. So it's a real steal at what we have. And if we do have an increase, it'll still be a steal for everything that you have here. Barry, you're doing a great job. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And just to let you know something, and I want you to compare these properties to what you have to the properties and what they're paying. So Solera, their dues is about $189 a month, and they have cable. I know that. But think of what other amenities they have. Hemet is $163. Okay? I'm just saying, look at what you have here. Palm Springs, they don't have a golf course at the Palm Springs place. $312. Yeah. Trilogy is $300 a month. I know they have a golf course. I had looked at that property, and I know they have a pool, but it's $300 there. And Sun Lakes is $336. They have the golf course, which is a big piece, and they have some amenities. So we're at $242. Our base. They have different levels for some extra things. So below, ones that have maybe amenities similar to ours or not quite. Yes. I didn't bring in the rest of them. Yeah, I did it on purpose. I looked at their base dues.
That's $336 plus the $152 for the country club, whether you pay golf or not. So, okay.
Yeah, it's more. So I think we have a heck of a bargain here at $242 for all the things that you can get into. And if you're not into it, just to be able to walk around here, it's beautiful. Sonia. Oh. Hold on, Sonia.
Pretty loud to begin with, but I'll use this. I understand in order to try and improve the income other than just our homeowners assessment, have you thought about switching some of the CDs? I understand the savings accounts are now increasing up to 2% interest. And if you could get a biggie in there and maybe, trade one out that's not paying as much into a larger one, however many you can do this with, I don't know. But it's another means.
You're absolutely right. And we are on that. We monthly look at it. We have all our CDs laddered just in case something like this happened. When the market went down, we kind of went down gradually, but we bought 6 months. We bought 12 months. We bought 18. We stayed away from longer term ones, and then starting the bigger ones. And we picked up something for 2.7 the last time. We got it. So as they go, we are picking those up, and we have a financial planner that's really smart in this area, and we're not wasting any time with trying to adjust those. But they're still down. And one of the things that's unusual, you'd say the longer term would be better because you think the prospect, but it actually flattens out. Everything's good right now between 2 years and 3 years. As you go out 5 to 10 years, it actually starts inverting down. I was looking at that the other day, the investment. So don't put your money in anything that long. Don't go over 3 years right now. There's something the market senses that I'm not sure of. Anybody else? Mr. Cooley.
Barry, could you just speak a little bit to what happens with reserves when they're low and they have a one-time assessment? I think we're running with a concept that everybody understands that, but the ramifications, if your reserves are low and you have something happen and suddenly you have to replace the sewer line, and what happens? I've seen HOAs that you couldn't sell the house because those one-time assessments were so high that nobody could deal with it. And that's the importance of keeping 100% reserves.
Yeah, 100% would mean that we have enough money at any given time to cover it. But it could be, you say 8 million, but if that sinks down and we run into a sewer line or something like that, you would need an assessment. And assessments are usually paid within 30 days. So you might have to come up with, I'll give you an example. I own a condo back in New Jersey, and down the street from us is another condo. About 10, 12 years ago, they needed to do their balconies and windows, and it was the responsibility of the condo association. Everybody was assessed $15,000 to $25,000 that they had to pay within 30 days. It was a big, and these are hardworking people. These were the people that had bought their little piece of happiness. This is a nice building and everything else, but they had to come. They didn't have enough money to cover that, and they had to do it. So we don't want to get in that situation. That's why we keep it 100%, and we feel, I just sure this year that we are adjusted on the cost, our cost of things, not just taking that 3%, to make sure we look at the material costs and we get those on the books so that we can have it in, and we'll adjust the fee payment accordingly. I'd like to thank, and I have to say it, this is the most important process we have. We have a $5 million+ business here, and we're managing $8+ million in the bank. It's a lot of responsibility for volunteers, and Jerry thanked all of them. But I can't thank the finance committee for the amount of work, the diligence they do in looking at this, in all the aspects. We now have contracting, a subcommittee on contracting, so we're getting the best prices we can and everything else. And the board. The final decision is the board, and the board is on top of this. They're very interested, and I want to thank all of them for the support. I'm just the front guy up here. In case, you wanted to throw tomatoes, they felt I could move the fastest tonight. Is that all? Well, I thank you for attending. Appreciate your input, too.